Next, I'm going to use the Countif formula to count the number of students for each achievement level. I'm going to make labels. I'm going to have a below basic count, a basic count, a proficient count, and advanced count. So I'm going to count the range of this data and then a comma. I'm going to choose my data range, then a comma, parentheses, below basic, and it has to be typed out exactly as it's in this data set, and then hit enter. And I have one below basic. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to choose my data range. And your count can be off with things as simple as if I select this data and I choose my comma and I put a space before I type proficient, notice it gives me a 0 proficient number, and I do have proficient students. What has happened, I accidentally spaced between my parentheses and my proficient. So I need to take that space out, hit enter, and now it shows that I have 10 proficient. Another thing you have to watch out for is if you accidentally misspell words. This dropped my basic down to 3. Everything in this list has to be the same. Notice it changed back to 4. So all my basics have to be the same. All my proficient, all my advanced, and my below basic has to be the same. And I have a video tutorial on how to clean up your data, how to easily clean up your data that you can watch if you have some data that is not matching. So please see the tutorial on how to clean up your data if you have data that is not consistent. So I've entered all of my Countif formulas. So I have 1 below basic, 4 basics, 10 proficient, and 3 advanced. Okay, next I'm going to show you how to utilize the text to column function. My next tab, I have some backup data. For instance, a lot of times if you copy data from PDFs or Word documents and paste it into Excel, everything is in the same cell, like the student name and the data. And so text to columns function separates this information into separate columns. I'm going to expand my margin for cell A just to show you how the data is just in one column. Now to separate this cell into separate ones, I'm going to choose my column, choose data, choose text to columns. I'm going to choose delimited, and it will give me the options to separate by tabs. I can separate by commas, but notice what will happen there. If I choose separate by space, that separates my data pretty much like I want it to. Notice my headings are a little bit off, but all my data is in the proper place. I'm going to choose next and finish. I have one data set that's off and my columns are off, but that can easily be fixed. I can just insert a cell to the right over here. And then I can just clean up my data a little bit, add my comma, and right click and delete that extra cell to clean up my data a little bit. I'm going to add my data headings. And I'm going to add a little formatting. I'm going to add my border lines. I'm also going to insert a row at the top. And I'm going to merge and I'm also going to give it a little shading to make it look a little bit nicer. Excel 2013 has a function that will add quick data bars to your information. For example, I'm going to select all this data. Under conditional formatting, I can choose data bars. And it gives me a visual representation of how the students are doing. So visually, I can see who is not doing as well as other students. You can select your data and you can choose what color you want your data. There are more rules to where you can choose a minimum and maximum amount of data. For instance, if you want students below 65 to be red, you can add a rule here. If you want students between 66 and 75, you can make them yellow. Students 76 and above, you might can choose, light green. And students that are advanced, you might could choose a bright green. But you can add advanced formatting rules through this option also. For some simple graphs, I'm going to go back to my fake data. If I try to make a graph out of all this information, if I choose all this information, I'm going to insert and choose a graph, it's going to be all jumbled up. It's not going to show me anything. So I have to select particular items to graph. This little table is organized well to where I can make a quick little graph to visually show my below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. So I'm going to go back to insert, do a little chart. I'm just going to cut it and paste it into another sheet where I can make it a little bit larger. You can cut it and paste it into a PowerPoint or to a Word document, wherever you want. To change my chart title, I'm just going to click on my chart title. If I want to visually show below basic as a certain color, I'm going to have to left click on the data bar a couple of times. Notice this is the only data that's selected. Notice my other ones aren't. I can right click and fill this to red. I may have to click on my data bar a couple of times because I only want this one selected and not the rest of them. And choose yellow. If you notice all of your data bars being chosen, all of them are going to change to the same color. I'm going to change this one to a lighter green. And I'm going to change this one to a darker green.